Hello and welcome to my 2026-27 league predictions for the Scottish Professional Football League from League 2 right the way up to the Scottish Premiership. And today I'm going to be doing my League 2 predictions. Hopefully I'm going to keep the video a little bit shorter than I did last year. I think it ran long a little bit. I'm also going to put some snippets up for TikTok to see, just so that I can get a little bit of a spread and get some people to see what my thoughts are for this upcoming season. Whether or not you'll agree with me is that's up for you guys. Obviously, I think there'll be some relatively predictable predictions in this, and then some that are a little bit more controversial. So we'll see how they get on. Now, as you can see, I've got the table here to my side here. I'm not actually sure what side this is going to be. To my side is my left, but I think it might be to the right for you guys. But regardless, this is the table here. And in 10th place, I am putting Annan Athletic. And I don't think that's really going to come as a surprise to anybody. They've got the oldest squad in the league. They've got Willie Gibson still a part of that squad, and as somebody who spent a number of years watching Willie Gibson at various different clubs, the fact that this man, 40, 41, 42 years of age now, he must be. I think that any club that's going to be relying on him is not going to be a club that does well. They also, in the off-season, lost a lot of key players, players that, were imperative to, well, I'd say success. It wasn't a very successful season for them last year, and their League Cup performance as well kind of exemplifies that as well. I think that they don't look like a team that's going to do any kind of damage, so I think that they will finish bottom of League Two, and I fully believe that depending on who finishes top of what league and what level in terms of the Lowland Highland sort of battle, I could see them going down. I do still think the relegation process for this league is a bit ridiculous. I'll do another video on that if people are interested. But yeah, so for me, Annan Athletic, bottom of the table, 10th place. And in 9th place, I've gone for Elgin City, just about surviving the relegation battle. There's a few different reasons that I've gone for here, kind of in many, many ways, the opposite for what Annan are. I've got them as having a very inexperienced squad. Now, they've got a lot of depth, right? I believe that they've actually got the biggest squad in League Two. However, I don't see a lot of quality in terms of the players that they've brought in. They've brought in a whole load of players to replace players that allowed them to do so well last season. That allowed them to sort of push the boundaries a little bit and get relatively close to the playoffs. I think having lost a lot of them, for me, the replacements that they brought in are just a little bit weak. I haven't seen a great deal of quality from them. Now, like I say, plenty of depth in the squad. So I could be very, very wrong, and it means that if players are underperforming or performing poorly, you can easily sort them in and out. But I look at Elgin City and I don't see them as a major threat to anyone this year. I think that they will finish second bottom. Yeah, so that's for me, Elgin City 9th place. And in 8th place, I've decided to put Stranraer. Now, this one was one I was a wee bit back and forth on. I thought maybe I should put them a little bit higher or a little bit lower. I've decided that they're not going to be as bad as the likes of Elgin City and Annan, and I don't think they'll be as good as the teams above them. I look at their team. They're not a team that have particularly impressed me at any point over the last couple of years when I've been watching them play. And obviously I went down there last season. I did see them against like Queen of the South and stuff as well in the early stages of the season. I did not see a team that looked impressive, and then I was watching them again in some of the League Cup action earlier this season, a couple of weeks ago, and again, not a team that I'm impressed by, not a team that have really done a great deal for me, and I think that they will be comfortably in 8th place. I think that's what I've decided. I think that they're not going to be anywhere near Elgin, but they're also not going to be touching the team above them. In 7th place, I have gone with the Spartans, which is perhaps a controversial one given a couple of different things. Obviously, the Spartans did really, really well last season. I had them to finish quite high up the table last season as well. I was sort of teetering on the edge a little bit, but being like, are they going to be able to do it? Are they going to be able to get over the line? Of course, East Kilbride managed to win the league and did an incredible job there. But the Spartans, I think, are going to have a dramatic fall off this season. They've lost a lot of players. They've brought in almost no replacements, really. They've not recruited enough talent across the board. I think that they've been sort of somewhat disappointing in the League Cup. They had a very poor finish there. I think they got rather fortunate in their final game, I felt. They looked like a team that were just happy to settle. When I saw them against Arbroath, I thought that, if Obviously, they get the offside goal, they kick on, they get themselves the equaliser, and you're thinking, right, okay, here's an opportunity now. They're going to kick on, they're going to win this game, because I thought they were better than Arbroath on the day. I thought that, Arbroath were really disappointing. And I thought that, here's a chance. And they just kind of stepped off the gas a little bit, allowed Arbroath to come back into the game and put a foothold. I think Arbroath looked like a team that, were definitely there for the taking, and Spartans decided not to take them. And if you're going to do that against teams that are much, much higher up the league, they will punish you. If you're doing that against teams at your level, then you're more likely to get away with it, but you're also you're going to wind up suffering as a result of it. You can't do that every single game. You can't do that every week. I also see that they've got a sort of a small squad. There's not a great deal of depth there, and I think it's 14 years Douglas Samuel's been there, 14 years or something like that, and I think this could be one of his worst years as the manager. So yes, for me, I am putting Spartans in 7th place. In 6th place, I've decided to go with Stirling Albion. Now, there's a great deal of reasoning behind their finishing this low at this point in time, but there is a world where I can see them pushing up and into the playoffs, and I think that they will finish in the bottom half just because the teams I've got above them probably slightly edge them out. But there's been a lot of turnover at Stirling Albion. They've brought in a whole heap of good talent, a whole heap of players, but they've also lost a lot of players as well. I think the recruitment has been good, and they have brought in a lot of good players. There's a lot of players in there that I look at and I think, okay, you're quite good. You're a name I recognise. You're somebody who looks quite talented. I've looked a little bit of game tape, a couple of people. They look quite nice. Stephen Whittaker is an experiment. He will be very defensive-minded, and it will take time for these players to settle in. There is too much in the mixing pot here for Stirling Albion to be pushing for any kind of title. I think that if you give Whittaker the time and you give these players the time, they will be up the top end of League 2 next season. I can see that happening, but I think at this moment in time, you have to look at it from the facts. And the facts are that there's too much change, there's too much that's happened, and there's no way they're going to be able to get themselves into the playoffs this season for that reason alone. But I think if you're a Stirling Albion fan, there's a lot to look forward to for next season. For this season, it's just going to be kind of midley. You won't be down the bottom end. You potentially push for a playoff, but I don't think you'll get there in the end. So Stirling Albion, 6th place for me. I think they'll do well next year instead. In 5th place, and just missing out on the playoffs, will be Forfar Athletic. And I think that they're a team that have kind of just stagnated a little bit. I think that the teams below them are a lot weaker. They had a strong finish in the 25-26 season, obviously coming in 4th place. They did very, very well. They had a very, very tough League Cup group as well, which obviously was to their detriment. I think it was I would argue, the second most competitive League Cup group. In terms of results, it was probably the most competitive. But looking at it at face value, I would have said the second toughest, and they did quite well in spite of that. They've made very few signings, and they've got a bit of an old squad. So it's the reason I think that they're actually dropping down a spot rather than pushing up a spot. But I will say I think that they are still a team that look somewhat impressive coming for this season. I think they're just going to miss out on the playoffs, which would be a shame for them. But yes, I think for me, Forfar in 5th place. In 4th place, and we are now looking at the playoff spots, I am putting newly relegated Kelty Hearts. Now, Tam Ware obviously took over towards the back end of last season. He's got a 38% win record, which is not bad considering the start that he had, considering he had to play against Queen of the South, considering he had to play against Inverness Caley Thistle, he had to play against, and we're talking like last season, these teams he's coming up against as well. Like he did very, very well considering the poor quality of player that he had at his disposal, the level that they were playing against, the toughness of the teams. I look at that Kelty team that did sort of towards the back end of last season. I thought they did quite well. I also thought they did quite well in their League Cup group. They've made some strong signings, and they have a good level of depth about the team. I think that they will be a good team. They've not lost to a team that is at their level or beneath them as yet. Every team that that has beaten them is a team that is significantly above them. And like I say, they managed to get a huge 2 points, not even just the 1 point, but the 2 points by drawing away to Queen of the South in the League Cup earlier this season. I think that there is a lot of sort of negativity surrounding the team at the moment. I think there's a lot of expectation that they're going to underperform a little bit here from I didn't speak to many people, but I have spoken to a couple of them a couple of the fans who seem a little bit concerned and a little bit worried, but I think that they'll be okay. I think they'll be in the playoffs. Will they go up? I don't think so. I think that the teams above them are far too good, and depending on who finishes second bottom, I could see a potential promotion from League Two from the playoffs that way. So we'll see. But I think Kelly Hearts to be the first of my playoff teams in fourth place. Next up, we have Edinburgh City. The League Cup performance was good, finishing in third place. I think that McIndoe has done well to steady the ship since he's come in. Obviously, made a whole load of transfers and signings and stuff in January. Edinburgh City have clearly they've come out the back end of the financial issues. It looks as though they're free and clear at this point in time. They've had a really, really tough time of it the last couple of years. And I will say as well that they obviously only would have finished 8th if they hadn't had the points deduction last season. But they did finish bottom because of the points deduction. Now, I think that a team to play as well as they did post points deduction and post liquidation administration even is, they did very, very well to come back from that to keep the players motivated. They've obviously got a 5-point deduction coming into this season. I do think that will hamper them, and I do think that will impact them, and I think that will sort of knock a little bit of the confidence out of them, perhaps, as they'll see themselves picking up points, but then they're not able to really get going, kind of thing. So, at this moment in time, they're the only team in the football pyramid that is actually sitting on different tally from everyone else, just because they have the points deduction. But I do think that they'll do quite well this season. I think it'll be a good year for them. I think in third place and a real serious push. I think they'll make the playoff final this year. In second place, and I have gone for Clyde. I think that this will be a good season for Clyde, but not quite good enough to win the league. They have got a whole load of talent that they've brought in from across the leagues. And we're not talking like, they've brought in loads of talent. Like, they've brought in talent from Premiership sides, from Championship sides, from League One sides. They've also gone for some younger players from the leagues below them with the opportunity to try and prove themselves. I think that Clyde, Darren Young is fantastic. I think that Clyde are in a really, really strong position right now. Obviously came third in their League Cup group. They did, again, just remarkably well. I feel that they're on some good form at the moment. And I think that they're in a real position to do quite significantly well this year. I think this could be a very, very good year if you're a Clyde supporter. And of course, my league champions. It can only leave Dumbarton. And I believe I put Dumbarton as my league champions last year, and then they wound up finishing 9th. I think that they will do much better this year. I look at that Dumbarton team in such a remarkably difficult League Cup group. I mean, East Kilbride, St Mirren and Dunfermline, and you still managed to pick up some remarkable points there. You still managed to get some incredible results from those games. Not only that, but you also managed to put up quite a performance in each of those games and get, at least get some good goals as well. They've got some really young talent as well that they've brought in, a lot of young players that they brought in, but more importantly, they have brought in the right level of experience as well. They've brought in Lewis Spence, Tommy Robson. They've brought in some really, really good players that I think will do really, really well. So for me, I'm looking at Dumbarton and I see them as league champions. I think that they will do remarkably well this year. That is my prediction. My full table, as you can see, is now complete next to me. Every single team is now on there. Obviously, the big shocks, I think, are Spartans to come in the bottom half of the table. I think not a lot of people will be expecting that, given what happened last season. I look at that team and I don't see the same team that I've seen for the last couple of years. I don't see a team that's going to do some serious damage. I think that Kelty looked really poor last season, but towards the back end of the season, once they've been relegated, once it was all confirmed, they kind of sort of the pressure was off them a little bit and it allowed them to play some more football. And I think when they're back in this level, they'll be allowed to play a bit more football and a bit free flowing. Similarly for Edinburgh City, I think that now they'll have these financial issues behind them. It'll allow them to play football a little bit more and be a little bit more relaxed in the way that they want to play. So I think that they'll do really, really well. Stirling have the potential to surprise me. They are my dark horses if anyone is going to win anything. It depends on whether the Stephen Whittaker experiment works. There's a lot of room in there for sort of a great deal of success from Stephen Whittaker. So we'll see how the season goes. I'll obviously do my League One, Championship and Premiership predictions as the weekend goes on. So stay tuned for all of those. There are some absolute shockers. Thank you all very much for watching. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below, or please feel free to come abuse me. You can find me on TikTok, where I do some shorter form content. It's meant to be shorter, it never winds up being that. But yeah, come check me out. I'll see you later.